All right. Hello, everyone. We're here with John Wood today. He is the owner and coach at Syndicate MMA. And John, we do a little bit different than a regular podcast. We do an interactive podcast. We have a Discord community that gives us questions for our guests. And you've been a highly requested guest, especially after last night's amazing victories that you had. So, hey,
Oh,
man, it's an honor to have you on. The first question we got for you is, how did you get into MMA?
phew. Um, geez. Well, I actually went. I can't remember how old I was, but watching the very first UFC pay-per-view at one of my friend's house, had no idea what it was. I think I was, I don't know, maybe I was even 12 or 13 or maybe even younger. I don't know. And fell fell in love with it there. I just like at the first one I was hooked. When I was younger, there wasn't any of that stuff, and I wanted to be a pro wrestler, and obviously, really, WWF back in the day was the thing. It's like I want to be a pro wrestler, and I realized, well, I'm not 6'6" and 350 pounds, so that's probably not going to be the route. So, once my voice is going out from last night, but yeah, once I realized that the UFC was an actual thing and going to stick around. I fell in love with it when I started training MMA when I was about 17. I started just kind of doing everything, not really even knowing that I was going to become a fighter or anything like that. I just like training. I love jujitsu and striking and all that stuff. And then it just kind of took on from there. Like, my first year with an MMA, I knew I wanted to do something with the sport. And as soon as I started deciding that I wanted to fight, everything just kind of fell into place. I moved back to Vegas and I ended up linking up with Frank Mir and, Forrest Griffin and all those guys back in the day. And it just kind of took off from there. And then I saw I knew that I never wanted to work a 9 to 5 job. And I saw the potential that MMA was going to have. And fast forward a few years of being into the fight game and fighting, I got into a car wreck and I got a little small settlement. And I actually just went to my coach at the time and said, hey, can I invest this and open another gym, a small gym in like a nicer part of town? Because all the gyms back then were in the hood. So it was hard to get to, and it was something that I wanted to bring to the masses. And from there, it just blew up.
So is that
Wow.
what got you kind of into coaching from fighting? Was opening up the gym, or how did that
Yeah,
start?
yeah. Originally, I always knew that I wanted to have a long-term go with fighting, and I knew that I actually knew before I became a fighter that I wanted to be a coach. I thought that was like where I would succeed, and I actually just started fighting to have the experience, to have the knowledge, to learn everything I could, to be able to pass that on, and so that's what kind of got me into it. I was coaching a lot of jiu-jitsu tournaments and going, and I loved it. It was just really cool. So I wanted to, obviously a longer term plan. I wanted to learn everything I could learn and get all the knowledge I could. And then, fighting, I thought that was a thing for me that, I wanted to understand that side of it if I ever was going to pass that down to somebody else. So yeah, coaching was always the plan, and it's working out.
I'd say
Awesome.
so. What is it like to have so many absolute killers training at the same gym?
Oh man, very fortunate, very blessed. It didn't happen overnight. It's my 22nd year in the gym. In the last couple of years, we've really hit the stride of bringing in the right coaches, bringing in the right, front end people. My wife took over the front, JoJo, who retired from the UFC this last year, and she's now, managing the gym, and all these things have come together at the right time in the last couple of years, and it's just made it so much easier to be able to handle those things. Having that many fighters, like we've got probably 65, 70, pros at the gym, somewhere around that number, and then probably another 40, 50 amateurs. We've been really building the amateur squad the last year is something we've really dedicated to do, and that they're killing it, and it's just across the board. It's just been awesome. And the only thing that allowed me to do that was getting the right coaching staff, getting the right team. I wouldn't be able to do this all myself. I wouldn't be able to do this without the guys from Syndicate that are all, we've got a young, great, coaching staff that's I think, this year you're going to see it's been happening for a long time, but this year you're going to see us, be considered, I think, in the top big ones.
Awesome.
Absolutely. And when like looking back at like all the people that you train with, how does someone like if a new person comes into the gym, obviously they probably won't get your time right away. How do they work their way up to get your time?
So, we kind of run the gym now as the last year I've really focused on running it more like a professional team. We have camp meetings. We set up the initial, I need to know everybody who's coming to the gym. You can't just walk into the mat. You can't just walk on and see. It's usually people that are coming to the gym now are either brought by a manager or they know somebody of somebody. So we usually get the heads up and we'll sit down, and we got a lot of talent coming in right now, a lot of young talent too that's right on the verge of breaking through. And you're going to see probably, I think, we'll probably get a good 4 or 5 guys in this year into the UFC, the up and comers. But it's a process we go through, and once they get onto the mat and you're on the team, obviously we want to see we have a very unified family atmosphere. It's a big gym with a small gym feel, and you have to have the right mentality. You have to have the right want to work. You got to fit in with us. We have to fit in with you. And the one thing for the fighter, I always tell them, make sure that this place is something that you're looking for. And the same thing, we want to know that you're something we're looking for, and having a quality piece, because we're not really, just adding anybody. We don't want to run out of room with just having a packed mat. Everybody on our mat right now, there is no restrooms, rest rounds. It's crazy. Like we have so many good guys right now that are just up and comers. We got 18-year-old kids that are making merab work for his money. That he's putting in camps and stuff. So it's a process, and once you've kind of shown us and proven to us that this is what you want, you're going to get all the time you need. Whatever you put into our team, we're going to put back into you. If you bust your ass and you're a good teammate and you can show that, then you're going to get all the work and all the attention that you need from us.
Yeah, I love that. So, kind of backing off of that question there, how do you all deal with privacy now? Because I know it's changed a lot since you first opened up Syndicate. Um, Privacy within camps, like people coming in. I know you said they kind of keep it private, but we saw some footage where Marab was kind of talking about a possible spy within the camp. Does that stuff happen? Like, is that a real thing? Like, does that actually happen?
I mean, yeah, everybody knows everybody in MMA, and a lot of people want to be the person to go tell somebody something, and they want to be this and they want to be that, and it makes them feel special. We actually had a kid that was training with us. He's a Dagestani kid, and he was close with both sides. He was training with us for a while, and he's friends with Umar and all those guys, which we don't have a problem with. And I kind of, I told him at the beginning of the camp of like, hey, listen, I don't think it was a good idea for him to even be there in the room, maybe take a few weeks off this and just come to regular classes, but and be impartial so you can keep both sides of the friendship, you can keep both sides of the stuff. But through that process, he went and was training with those guys and doing whatever, and he's friends, and I don't know if he was over there telling secrets, and there's really nothing to tell. Like if somebody goes over there and tells somebody, and if he was telling them, it didn't work. But I don't ever worry about that bullshit. It's more the loyalties that I have, to my guys and that they have to us, and so he chose his side, and I'm all good with it. But, obviously the consequences when those guys leave and they're not here anymore and he wants to come back to the gym, that's not going to happen. So it is what it is. Everybody's got to be their own man or their own woman and an adult and make the choices that you feel are best for you. And the consequences are left up to me to say, okay, cool, I respect that, but here's what we're doing. So it does happen, and you do hear rumblings of people. I think it's more or less realistically said everybody, especially in Vegas, and there's a lot of gyms here where everybody just cross trains and trains with everybody, and that's where we don't really do that. We have a team, And I tell them, like, you can be here. If you want to go train with your buddies at the PI, that's fine. If you want to go meet up and do a run or do this or do some private training, fine. But if you're going to a rival MMA gym, somebody who we fight all the time, people that interact all the time, then that's not going to work for us. And more power to you to do whatever you want. I don't force anybody to stay at our gym. That is a choice that they want to make, but that's just how we run things.
So, kind of going back to the question before, you currently have two champs. Who's the third champ that we can see next, do you think?
I mean, obviously, right on the radar, is Khalil. Khalil Roundtree is the next. I think we're one, big fight away of getting back to that spot. So he's the obvious choice in that. We do have some really good young talent that I don't throw around the word, you could be the term you can be a champion. You've got it. It's such a hard thing to become a champion. You have to have the talent, the work ethic. You have to have, and on top of all that, there's a lot of luck that goes into it. Being in the right time, the right place, getting the call. Look at Moicano last night. He might have never gotten a title shot. Might have never gotten a title shot before that opportunity last night. He stepped up, took the title. You never know. He's one punch away from knocking a guy out and becoming the champion. But that didn't happen. So there's a lot of different things that go into that. But I would say that, there's a couple people on my radar that I think are very, you know, championship potential, championship qualities. And there's, like I said, there's a lot that goes not just in the gym. Being in the gym is easy. It's easy to come to the gym and have myself and the coaches yelling at you and telling you what to do. And hey, it's all the stuff outside, life, family, bills, work, all those things that usually get in the way of that. We have some really good up and comers. One that I would say that is probably, I think, in the near future you're going to hear some title implications would be, Jacqueline Cavalcante. She's got another big fight coming up and she's on a streak and such a talented young lady. She's got all the tools. I wouldn't be shy to say that she'll be in the, I think she'll be in the top 10, top 5 conversation sooner than later.
Awesome.
Leading up to Merab's title fight back at Noche, we saw someone impersonating Suga. Whose idea was this, and who ultimately runs Merab's comical Instagram? Because it has to be the best right now.
It really is Merab. Merab does all this stuff, puts it together, get these ideas. He's got, we have a social media guy, and it's his buddy, another Georgian cat, Vato, at the gym, who runs our Instagram and does his stuff and helps him put all this stuff together. And they just come up with these ideas, man, and they go out there and kill it. And not Sugar is another Georgian cat that they just happened to meet and they're like, oh, you look like him now. And that's played out so good. So it just happenstance. He's just a Georgian guy out here that looks just like Sean O'Malley. So Marab just kills it. Like
He's a machine.
he's got a good brain, man. He's good with that stuff.
Kind of going back to Khalil just real quick. In the Pereira fight, the judges all had him 1 through 3, and we everybody thinks he gave him the hardest run for his money to date. What were your thoughts on that fight?
Yeah, obviously I've been working with Khalil for a long time and I know how gifted he is. So there was never any doubt for me that he had a good shot at winning that fight. It's just Pereira is the champion for a reason. He's special, and that guy does have the death touch. And no matter how good of a game plan you come up with and how perfectly you fight, when one punch can change how things go, you're always up against it. That's rough, and we talked about between the two of them, I think there's, in their entire career, one takedown shot, out of both of them. So it wasn't ever going to be, oh, let's go out there and wrestle, let's go out there and have a banger. And that's what they did. So, and the same thing with Khalil. Khalil's always just one punch away from putting your lights out. He hits just as hard as Pereira, but the experience level of Pereira at that championship level is just something that you can't. account for. He made the adjustments, and that's such a sign of a great champion is when you're losing, 3 rounds and you're able to make the adjustments and get the reads and go, oh, this is working. And he did a couple things that, he doesn't normally do. He's not really big on relying on his jab too much to do stuff, but he found his jab and that kind of turned the fight. And, you know, to Khalil's, he's got so much heart and toughness, but you can only take those kind of shots for so long before your brain just gets scrambled.
Yeah. Well, it was a hell of a fight. I loved that fight.
Yeah, I did
I
too.
think I think you'll get it back one day. I really do.
I do too. I do too. I think sooner than later.
You think it'll be Pereira or Ankalaev?
It's a good question.
Listen, Pereira's got the status of I don't bet against Pereira. That's not, until someone figures that puzzle out, which, we saw Izzy drop him,
Yeah.
and that was at 85, maybe when he's a little weaker and maybe a little, that was a hard weight cut for that man. He is a massive human being, massive. So until someone solves that riddle at 205, I don't bet against him. There's guys that, I'll never bet against John Jones. I'll never, Islam's getting to that point where it's like you can't really until someone shows me that they can take him or beat him or just like Umar was invincible until last night. So um, yeah, I think that Pereira holds on to that.
What are your thoughts on Gaffarov's performance last night, and what was the game plan going into that fight? And who do you think he gets next?
He's in that spot where who knows who he's getting next. That's up to the UFC. We have no idea. I don't think we're in a call your shot type of spot. Muin is so talented. He's on the same level as Merab, maybe a little more polished in his striking and wrestling, and he's a full, complete package. He got into the UFC, and he had a rough road at the beginning, and then when I got to him, it was just kind of smoothing things out, and we knew we were fighting a very skilled wrestler last night, and footwork. I'm a big believer in footwork. Footwork is what gets you where you need to go, get you out of the bad positions. And that's what showed. A lot of people were saying, why didn't that guy wrestle? Why didn't he wrestle? Because he couldn't. When you take that away, every time he came in, he was getting hammered. He got hit with everything. He's got a hell of a chin because he got blasted, kneed, kicked, everything. And he kept, coming. But when he did shoot or did go, Moeen was gone and making him pay. So the game plan was obviously to stay on those toes and move and fight a smart fight. Muin's back was up against the wall on that one, obviously, and we needed to get a big win, and obviously that was another hype train coming in, and so you got to fight a smart fight, and he did, and he looked great, and I think that there's big things for him coming up.
Yeah, I can see him going to the top. He looked phenomenal last night. That was probably my favorite fight on the card, to be honest. It had me on
We
the
were
edge of my
watching.
seat the whole time.
We were
Nice.
watching that card together, and I literally made the comment, he looks like a like he looks like a Marab out there. He
Yeah.
looked like Marab.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he does his full camp with him, and that was a big. I mean, what better boost can you go to when you're fighting a wrestler and you've done your entire camp with Marab on your ass for 5 rounds or whatever 3 rounds, and yeah, that's something I told him. I was like, listen, this guy is not Marab. He's not going to do what Marab does. So go out there and do your thing, and he did.
Did
Definitely
great.
did. So, what kind of advice do you kind of give Marab to go in there against a guy like Umar and just do what he did to him? I mean, he made him look, I don't know, he just made him look some kind of way.
Made him
Well,
look human, that's for sure.
yeah, listen. I mean, there's a real thing called hype training, and that doesn't mean that the guy isn't great. It doesn't mean that he isn't, oh man, like all these guys that we beat doesn't mean that they're not great fighters. It's just I know what dog I got in that fight, and I don't know if there's anybody out there that touches him. And I keep saying this: is he's only getting better. He's only getting better. I think you've seen maybe 50, 60% out of Rob with what you can see and what you're going to see. And the next evolution is going to be nasty, 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 nasty. And this one, even more so, what he learned and what he did and what he was able to download in 6 weeks. That man went out there and did everything things that he's never done before, that he's learned in the last 5 6 weeks, and through the roughest camp he's ever had, injured, messed up, half the camp couldn't even train most of the time, and he still just showed up every day grinding. So I just know what I've got, in that man, and so really it's getting him to know and to believe. And once he does, and I think there's no, obviously we all fall victim to, oh my God, this guy's his last name is this. You can't beat him. And they've never been beat. Nurmagomedovs have never lost, and it's like, yeah, but that's my job to go in there and watch tape and find the weaknesses and find the chink in the armor. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. They're maybe not glaring, but you have to kind of peel back the onion and know, okay, this is where we can exploit this. And I knew that what I saw in sparring and what I saw in this camp, that there was nothing that he was going to bring to the table that was going to be shocking. There was nothing. I told Rob, once you get in that first exchange, that first wrestling exchange, first whatever with him, you're gonna trust me, you're gonna feel just fine, and he did. So
Well, he looked awesome. He looked great.
thank you.
What was the game plan last night? We almost saw Merab let Umar push the pace until he tired out, and then Merab kind of, he turned into the machine that we're all used to.
Yeah, that was exactly the game plan, and that was one of those things that as a coach, it doesn't happen often. It's been happening quite a bit lately, but when the game plan goes exactly like it's supposed to, and when I coach guys, I don't say you have to do this. I have a very fluid game plan. In fact, most of the time when I'm cornering and coaching my guys, I don't even tell them what the game plan is. We have a basis of here's what we're looking for, here's what we're doing, because you never know. Shit switches off, or if you break your hand and you can't make the adjustments to fight anymore, then you got to go do something different. So you never know what's going to happen. But there's other videos that have been posted of me just saying, "Hey, we're gonna give up one or two. I don't care. I see this fight. Like, let him go out there and think that he's gonna be in charge. He's never not been in charge of a fight. Let him think, when he shoots his first shot or he hits you and you're not going anywhere, you're not backing up. Let him feel that feeling a little bit. And I even thought, I thought the first two were super close. I was already in my head convinced that we were going to give those ones up. And I just told him at the end of two, we start pressuring him, cutting him off, putting the pressure on, not letting him feel any minute to breathe. And you could see by three, it was
Yeah.
so it worked. That was the exact game plan. And Marab followed it to a T.
Who would you like to see him fight next? I mean, he's pretty much cleared out the division at this point.
Pereira.
Ferreira.
Get that one
Yeah.
back with Marab. I think Marab could take him down and wrestle him, and I think that's where we need to be. Now, there's obviously you just said it. He's already cleared out everybody, and there's some young up and comers that are coming on the backside, but it's going to take them a while to get through. There's a murderer's row, to get to Marab, and somebody's gonna have to put something together to really to jump that line. But the obvious choices are, you have a rematch with O'Malley, you have a rematch with Jan. Those are the first two, and Jan makes more sense on the fact of Jan coming off of a good win, and O'Malley sitting around doing whatever O'Malley's doing. I feel like he should. I feel like if you lose, unless you're such a dominant champion that the automatic rematch is not mandatory. I think that you got to go out there and fight somebody else, or those two should fight again to see who gets it. But I think it's going to be one of those two either way.
You think they'll throw him Sandhagen before he gets another title?
O'Malley?
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's necessary. I think O'Malley's got the star power and the draw that they don't give a shit. They'd put him in there just for the name. I really do think that he's still, even though coming off the loss, maybe he's not as golden boy, but he's a guy that's going to bring numbers and put seats in the ass, so it doesn't really matter to them. It's a business at the end of the day for the UFC, and they do good business.
True.
Yeah, fair enough. Leading up to UFC 312, is there anything you can give us any insights on the champ Whaley?
I mean,
He's gonna do her thing, huh?
Whaley's gonna do Whaley, and I think
Yeah.
she still ends up the champion after that fight.
Awesome. What are your actual thoughts on the matchup between the two?
Um, Great fight. Tatiana is obviously the top of the division. Other than her, I think her wrestling pedigree and her ability to do what she does on the ground is elite level. And probably the best woman wrestler, in the division and in maybe in all of UFC. So that's a skill set that can win a lot of fights, and it has. So I think that that is going to be can she take Whaley down and hold her down for 5 rounds? I don't think so. I don't know. Like she's, like I said, a very talented fighter, and if it's not four-way Lee, she probably is the champion and probably hangs on to it for a long time. But again, I think the growth that Whaley has made in the last couple of years is pretty impressive too, and that's another one in her MMA game. She's very good at striking, good at wrestling, good at jiu-jitsu. She's now working to put all those things together. And I think she's just getting better too. Like there's room. It's crazy when you have these guys that are at the top of the food chain, the best in the world, that are still getting better. So, you it's a great fight. Obviously, I'm a little biased on that one because I work with Whaley, but I know Tatiana and her boyfriend Pachi, and if they win, I'd be nothing but happy for them. Um, and I just, like I said, she's the champ for a reason.
Absolutely. Well, John, we want to thank you again for coming on. It's been an honor having you on today. Is there anyone you'd like to shout out or any socials you'd like to plug?
No, I mean, just check out our gym, Syndicate MMA, and obviously I'm on Instagram, Bigwood MMA 702. But past that, thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.